The turkey on the table was carved to perfection, the wine poured, laughter humming like a choir of knives. Everyone took their seat around my parents' oak table, their chosen table, where respect was measured in obedience. I'd barely touched my plate when my father's voice split through the warmth like a whip. "Get out," he roared. "Paying bills doesn't make you family. My name is Emily, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever given until you bled, only to be told you were nothing?" I sat still, a fork trembling in my hand, trying to taste the food I'd helped pay for, the electricity I'd kept running, the mortgage I'd carried when they were behind. My mother leaned in, voice dripping disappointment. "You're just jealous of your brother. Look at him, he's successful. You'll never measure up." Across the table, my brother smirked, polishing his designer watch. A man who never paid a dime for this house, yet claimed its walls as trophies. I looked from my father's rage to my mother's quiet cruelty, then to my brother's smug grin. I set down my fork with a calm that felt nuclear. "Fine," I whispered, smiling. "Then let him pay the $12,800. A hush, sharp as shattered glass, fell over the table. "What did you say?" my brother demanded, voice cracking. I stood, folding my napkin with care, rage simmering under every inch of my skin. "The past due bills. The ones I covered every month while you bragged about your promotions. If I'm not family, then you handle it." My father's jaw worked in furious silence. My brother sputtered, "You can't just leave. The house will shut down." My smile never wavered. "Watch me." That night, I went home, logged into every account, power, water, gas, internet, and clicked terminate service. One after another. $12,800 of thankless obligation ended with a single line of code. I slept like a queen on the ashes of their pride. By morning, the screaming started. Cops on the lawn, water flooding from burst pipes, my mother wailing, my brother cursing, lights dead, fridge rotting, their kingdom of illusions collapsed. I watched through my window, calm as a hurricane's eye, because they'd told me I was nothing. So I showed them exactly what nothing looked like. The morning light revealed their perfect Thanksgiving table overturned, dishes smashed on the floor, wilted flowers drooping like dying dreams. My father stood on the porch, fists clenched, barking at the officers as if the badge could force the world back to his liking. My mother cried on the steps, mascara running down her cheeks, clutching a cold coffee mug like a lifeline. And my brother, the golden heir, the success story, paced in circles, his phone dead, his power suit wrinkled and useless. I watched from across the street, unseen behind tinted glass, letting the quiet fill my lungs. They'd lived off my sacrifices for years, swallowing my paychecks, calling me just jealous, whenever I dared to want more. They forgot who had kept their lights on, who paid the mortgage so the sheriff didn't come knocking, who bought their medicine, their food, their heat. They forgot, and I let them. Until now. One of the cops approached my brother, calm and unimpressed. "Sir, there's no record of you on the utility contracts. You'll have to set up your own accounts." My brother sputtered, cheeks flaming. "This is my parent house. That's my room." The officer shrugged. "Legally, you've contributed nothing. It's her name on everything. You want it on again? Pay the bill." $12,800. The number was poison in his ears. My mother sobbed harder, grabbing my father's sleeve. "Call her," she wailed. "Call Emily. Make her fix it." My father's pride choked him. I saw it, a war in his eyes. The father who'd just told me to get out, now needing the daughter he'd branded an outsider. He dialed, hands shaking. My phone buzzed on my nightstand. I let it ring. Again. And again. By the fourth call, I answered, my voice calm as cut glass. "Yes." My father's breath hitched. "Emily, we need you to fix this. Right now." I smiled, unseen, free. "You told me I wasn't family," I said. "And you were right." Then I hung up, letting the silence fall heavy as a tombstone. They could figure it out. After all, family takes care of family, and this time they could start with themselves. The wind rattled the window panes as I stood there, phone still warm in my hand. Their stunned silence on the other end replayed in my mind like a sweet, final chord. For once, I didn't feel guilty. I felt finished. My brother tried to call next. 6 missed calls. Then 10. Then 20. Each one went to voicemail, his voice breaking further every time. Emily, please, they're freaking out. The pipes froze. The food's rotting. You can't just leave us like this. Oh, but I could. I sat down at my small, quiet kitchen table, the one I'd bought with my own money, no one else's, and wrapped my hands around a mug of tea. The calm inside me was a power they would never understand. I had carried them for so long they believed the floor was solid. They never wondered who built it. Now they would. By mid-afternoon, another knock rattled my apartment door. I opened it to find Mark, my cousin, my only friend in that entire mess, holding a bag of groceries, concern in his eyes. News travels fast, he said, stepping inside. I shrugged, exhaustion catching up with me. They wanted me gone. I'm gone. Mark set the groceries down. They're melting down, he confirmed. Your dad's calling everyone, trying to get the utilities turned back on, but no one has 12 grand sitting around. Your brother tried to get a loan. Denied. I didn't flinch. Good, I said. Mark raised a brow. You sure about this? I nodded, steady as iron. They told me I was worthless. I showed them what worthless really feels like. He blew out a breath, half admiring, half shocked. Damn, Emily. We sat together in silence, the only sound the faint ticking of my wall clock. Eventually he asked, what now? I looked around at my warm, quiet, paid apartment, every bill in my name, every light mine to control. Now, I said, breathing easy for the first time in years, I live my own life. And if they ever came crawling again, I'd let them taste the hunger they'd once forced on me. Because I'd been their safety net long enough. It was time they learned what falling really felt like. Night fell hard over their crumbling kingdom. I watched from my window as news filtered through distant relatives, a wedding cake house going dark, the golden sun too broke to fix it, the parents who thought they'd built an empire now choking on their own neglect. My phone lit up again. This time my mother. Emily, please. It's Thanksgiving. You don't turn your back on family. I almost laughed. Family. The word they weaponized, twisted, used to chain me to their mistakes. I typed back, fingers steady. You told me I wasn't family the minute I said no. 3 dots blinked, then vanished. Silence. Mark called to check in later, his voice rough with awe. They're sitting in a freezing house, candles melting on the table like a funeral. Your brother's losing his mind. I leaned against the counter, letting the warmth of my apartment remind me I had survived. Good, I whispered. Let him. Mark paused. They're really falling apart. They should, I answered. They can learn what it costs to treat someone like a servant. Images flickered through my head, birthdays where they forgot me, Christmas mornings with no gift under the tree for the daughter who paid their bills, 100 thankless meals I cooked while they called me worthless. No more. I went to the thermostat and turned it up, heat humming through my vents, a luxury they would never again rip from me. My mother sent one final text as midnight approached. We're cold. We're hungry. Please. I stared at it, a tear threatening to slip, but I refused. Instead, I let the tear dry right there in my eye, turning to steel. They had chosen their golden child. Let him save them. I set the phone down and pulled the blanket tighter around my shoulders. No shame. No apology. Just peace. Because this was what it meant to be free. Not having to bleed so others could stay warm. And I would never bleed for them again. Morning cracked over the neighborhood like a judgment, sunlight laying bare every broken illusion inside their cold house. I sipped my coffee, phone silent for once, letting the quiet become something sacred. Mark texted early. They're still there. No power. No water. Your brother tried to call the bank again, denied. A slow, satisfied calm settled in my chest. All those years they'd scolded me for being less, for not measuring up to his shiny resume, for daring to exist in the same rooms they praised him in. All those years felt small and far away now, because the only reason their world ever kept spinning was me. My father's voice still echoed in my head, hateful and dismissive. Paying bills doesn't make you family. Fine. Then they could live without my sacrifices. Around noon, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Mark again, shivering a little. "They're outside," he said carefully. "They look wrecked." My stomach twisted, but only for a moment. "Let them in?" I asked, testing myself. Mark shook his head. "No. They want you to go back. They expect you to fix it." That was the wound, wasn't it? They didn't want me, just my ability to save them. I stepped onto the porch. There they were, my father, shoulders hunched, eyes cracked wide with rage and panic. My mother, looking 10 years older, fingers clenched around a threadbare coat. My brother, silent, jaw tight, no more smirk left to hide behind. My father stepped forward. "Emily," he rasped, "turn it back on." I crossed my arms. "Why should I?" My mother's voice broke. "Because we're your family." I laughed, the sound so cold it startled even me. "You made it clear I wasn't." My brother spat out. "You're heartless." I tilted my head, eyes steady. "No. I'm finished." They stared, as if the daughter who'd quietly fed their world should never have found a backbone. But I had. I stepped back inside, shut the door, and let them stand there in the chill, the consequences of their own cruelty wrapped around them tighter than the November wind. Because I was done handing out comfort to people who only offered me pain, and I would never let them forget it. They stood outside my door for what felt like hours, a portrait of everything they'd tried to bury me under: entitlement, guilt, and a sick kind of hunger for power. I watched them through the peephole, breathing calm, refusing to flinch. My brother paced the sidewalk like a caged animal, checking his silent phone again and again. My mother sat on the concrete steps, shoulders shaking, mascara streaked like ash. My father just stared, empty, the roar gone from his voice. I could have opened the door. I could have let them back in, turned the lights on, swept up their mess, the way I'd always done. But that version of me was dead. I stepped back from the door, closing the curtain. They needed to feel it. The absence of my sacrifice, the gaping hole left when their scapegoat refused to play along. I made myself dinner, the stove humming warmth into my quiet apartment, the peacefulness so sharp it felt like a new religion. They had taught me to feed them first, to serve them first, to love myself last. No more. As I plated my meal, I thought about the years I'd covered their debts while they called me worthless, the nights I'd gone without so their cable bill wouldn't lapse. Who would carry them now? My phone buzzed again, a neighbor's text this time. "Your parents are asking for charity. Should we help?" I breathed in, then out, steady. "That's their choice," I replied. "Mine is no." Later, the power company called to confirm shutoff. "Do you want to reinstate it under your name?" I closed my eyes, felt the question settle like an old bruise. "No," I answered firm. "Let them handle it." Click. Done. I carried my dinner to the table, sat down alone, and took the first bite with a calm so deep it almost startled me. They had pushed me out of their family. So I walked. And this clean, quiet, undemanding peace was the beginning of a freedom they'd never steal again. The days that followed felt like living in a brand new world, one where I finally breathed without permission. No frantic phone calls to juggle bills, no whispered insults, no one reminding me how small I was. Only silence, blessed, liberating silence. Mark came by again, carrying a grocery bag, shaking his head in disbelief. "They're still sitting in that freezing house," he reported. "Your dad tried to borrow money from the neighbors. Nobody's biting." I leaned against the counter, steady. "Let them figure it out." Mark studied me, half admiring, half stunned. "You really mean that, huh?" I nodded. "They told me I didn't belong. They can keep their table." He blew out a low whistle. "You know they're blaming you, right?" I laughed, the sound raw and unbreakable. "Of course. It's easier than admitting they built their lives on me. Memories flickered through my mind, late-night shifts to cover their mortgage, the time I skipped dinner so they could keep the lights on, the holidays they called me jealous while I paid for the food on their plates. They wanted to erase all of that, rewrite me as disposable. Now they could rewrite their own ending. Mark reached across the counter, gentle. "Emily, you're not a villain." I met his eyes, voice solid. "I know." A tear threatened to slip free, but I blinked it back. Because villains steal. I had only reclaimed what was mine. My phone buzzed with one last desperate message from my mother. "Your brother is freezing. Come fix this. Be a good sister." I put the phone down untouched. For once, their emergencies would not be my burden. That night, I fell asleep to the quiet hum of my own heater, the steady beat of my own paid-for electricity, the warmth of a bed I didn't owe to anyone else. No guilt, no apology, just peace. Because if I wasn't family when I paid the bills, I was sure as hell not going to be family now. Morning came wrapped in golden quiet, sunlight painting soft stripes across my bedroom walls. I woke with no dread in my chest, no checklist of bills to juggle, no voices waiting to tear me down before breakfast. Just peace. My phone stayed silent, no new demands, no guilt-soaked commands disguised as love. I sat with my coffee, letting the warmth remind me this was mine, every last drop of it earned, paid, chosen. Mark called around noon, voice low. "They're leaving the house," he told me. "Cops came to warn them about the frozen pipes bursting. They're moving into a motel." I didn't react, only let the words settle in like a final, ringing bell. My family, who'd scoffed at me, who'd slapped away my sacrifice, who'd claimed I was less than nothing while draining me dry, now forced to start over in a cramped hotel room with no handouts. My brother, the golden child, dragged along for the first time to feel consequences. "Emily," Mark asked, worried by my silence. "I'm okay," I promised, voice steady. "Better than okay." Because I was free. Free of their chains, free of their constant demands, free of the lie that love meant setting yourself on fire to keep them warm. Mark hesitated. "You sure you don't want to? I don't know, check on them?" I shook my head, a quiet, resolved smile on my lips. They made it clear who I was to them. "I'm returning the favor." His sigh was half sad, half awed. "All right. Just don't lose yourself, okay?" I smiled, stronger than I'd ever been. I finally found myself. The day stretched ahead, a blank page no one else could stain. I cleaned my kitchen, hummed a song I liked, opened the window to fresh air. No footsteps behind me, no muttered insults around the corners, no backhanded lectures. Just my life, my rules, my voice. As the sun set, I stood at the window and let a single thought burn bright in my mind. They had taught me that paying the bills wasn't enough to call me family. So I had taken them at their word. And now they would live in the darkness they created, while I stepped into the light I had built for myself.